Are you just transitioning to IT recruitment? Would you like to start placing IT candidates? I know this is trending these days, right? IT is growing. It sounds very sexy, right? Like, oh my God, I want to recruit IT professionals. Maybe you are tempted. I was tempted as well. In fact, I've been in IT for the last, 17 years, 18 years. Crazy how time flies. Anyway, in this video, I will walk you through my best tips on how to actually start placing candidates quickly. So if you have never been working in IT, if you have never been recruiting IT candidates, you will find this video useful. And I have for you 5 tips, okay? You can see the list over here. I'll highlight some of them. All right, so let's kick it off with the first tip. Focus. If you think about IT, there are so many different IT positions. Think of the web developers, mobile app developers, cybersecurity engineers, DevOps engineers, cloud specialists, network administrators, server administrators, database administrators, architects, analysts, data engineers, business intelligence specialists. I mean, so many IT professionals work in IT. And it's very unlikely you would be able to interview web developers as well as blockchain developers as well as cybersecurity engineers. So my best tip number 1 is to focus. Start focusing on 1, 2, or 3 IT roles. So in other words, learn about the IT role. What do they do at work? What kind of tools they use? What programming languages? What frameworks? What databases? What tools they use to create the software or the models or whatever. And the focus is also important when it comes to your role as the recruiter. So in other words, you can do the full cycle recruitment, which is quite hard, to be honest, because you have to be in touch with the client, you have to analyze the job requirement, you have to identify who to look for, how to find the right candidate. It's just overwhelming, yeah? So you can also focus on one part of the process. For example, one of my colleagues focuses only on sourcing, and he is really great at sourcing candidates. Another colleague chose to focus on engaging with candidates. So she, for example, wouldn't be a good sourcer, so to source candidates, because she just doesn't seem to care too much about the sourcing strategies. And that's okay. Maybe that's you as well. And you can only focus on engaging with candidates. Another of my colleagues focus only on interviewing candidates. So they have decent English, they like to engage with people one-on-one, and they interview candidates as a result. They also could not source candidates on LinkedIn or GitHub, or it will be just way too boring for them, but they like to focus on interviewing candidates. Okay, so the tip number 2 is to think about your role. What exactly are you excited about? Would you like to be in touch with clients or candidates? Or would you like to do the sourcing? Are you the more analytical type who would probably enjoy more working with the spreadsheets and with the sourcing tools? Okay, so think about your focus on IT roles and focus on the part of the recruitment workflow. My tip number 3 is to choose the right team. And this is super important, because if you work as a standalone freelancer, you would be working alone at home for some clients on the other side of the world, which, it sounds cool, but there is no one to learn from, right? On the other hand, if you join a great team full of superstars and senior recruiters, you will have people to learn from, and these people will push you to deliver better results. Tip number 4 is to learn to pitch a vacancy, to pitch a job opportunity to candidates. This is super important in IT these days because of the talent shortage. IT candidates have lots of opportunities, they have lots of companies they can work for around the globe. Someone who is in a small village in the Czech Republic, in the Central Europe, can work for any company around the globe in London or in Canada or in the United States. Yeah. So in other words, they have lots of opportunities, and our job in recruitment is to identify how to sell those opportunities to candidates properly so that they would get excited. And then the question is, how can you pitch the opportunity, right? So we, during the training, we go through the candidate psychology, and you would eventually understand what makes them tick, what they are interested in. So I can give you a simple tip about, for example, web developers. So they like to create new features, they like to create software that has lots of users, they like to release software to production quickly and frequently. So if you know what makes them tick and what makes them interested, then you can pitch the opportunity properly. Okay, so you don't say like, hey, we are looking for a Java developer. No. You say like, hey, if you are excited about starting new projects from scratch and you would like to take more responsibility about the architecture, then we have a great offer for you, which is to join this startup that starts a new project on a greenfield, where you can be one of the few senior developers on board, and you can be the one who will decide on the architecture. Okay, just one of the examples. And then this way you can pitch those opportunities properly on the social media or when you are on a call with a candidate. And my tip number 5 is to learn about the programming languages and frameworks that the IT professionals use. And why, you may wonder? Well, because if you know what the programming languages and frameworks are used for, you know what do the candidates do just by looking at their CV. Because a web developer can have, for example, on the resume written that he or she used Node.js. And you will immediately know that the person was working on the backend creating some APIs for another person who was probably a front-end developer. Okay, so they usually work together alongside. One focuses on the backend, the other focuses on the front end. One uses Node.js, for example, the other would use React, Angular. And once you have the understanding of the programming languages and frameworks, then you can quickly analyze the job requirement on one hand, and on the other hand, you would be able to just quickly screen candidates just based on the technologies they use. Okay, so programming languages and related software frameworks. Of course, other tools are important as well, but if you just master the programming languages and frameworks, you will do well, especially if you focus on web developers, for example. Because, as I mentioned, there are lots of IT professionals in the whole IT world, but software developers, especially web developers, take probably 70% of all IT roles. Okay, so focus. And number 6, the last bonus tip, learn. You just in IT have to learn constantly because new frameworks, new languages, new tools are popping up as we speak. So you just have to learn constantly to stay up to speed, because you cannot just hop on a call with a candidate and not know what is Next.js or React or Angular, So constant learning. And for that, for example, I organize the Tech Recruitment program where I teach, by the way, not just how to pitch the vacancy, but also the essential IT terminology. As I mentioned, I've been in IT for the last 17, 18 years, so I know a thing or two about IT, and I am super excited about passing this on to fellow HR professionals, recruiters. So that's why I organize this Tech Recruitment program, usually every 2-3 months. So if you'd like to join, you can visit techrecruitmentprogram.com and check it out. You can also download one of my free ebooks. You can learn about the pitching, how to pitch the vacancy, how to thrive in IT these days. It's not easy because these days, IT professionals have lots of opportunities. So you can download the ebook. The link will be in the description of the video. So check it out. Okay. So with that, I'll wrap it up. Enjoy recruiting. Think about these 5 or 6 recommendations, how you can apply them, how you can start focusing, how you can join a team full of professionals, how you can start understanding more about the programming languages and frameworks, and how you can just focus on a part of the recruitment process so that you master that, and then you can move on to another part, and then another part, and eventually you will be a great full cycle end-to-end IT recruiter.